All right, all right, all right. We are live. We are live. Good evening, everybody. Yes, Angela. Angela, we're here. We're here. We're here.
Have to practice to see. I need to see if it works.
Oh, I want to hear myself. Hello, hello.
Hello?
Yeah, okay. I thought I heard something in the background. Hello, everybody. This is Pat Miss Chapel. We are the education department.
Hello?
Hi, Tamsin. Can you hear me? Tamsin is freezing. All right, so we're gonna have hey Donna. Hey, how you guys doing? Angela. It's good to see you all. We're gonna have a constructive dialogue about your decisions. You have some decisions to make. And before I introduce the panel, I want to offer a word of prayer so that we ask the Holy Spirit to help us really inform the parents, especially of our church, number one, and of course, all around
Yes,
Florida.
I can hear you.
All around Florida. There must be a delay, Tamsin. I think there's a delay for you. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you so much for being with us. I ask in a special way that you send your Holy Spirit, help us as we try to inform our members and others about certain decisions they need to make for their children in regards to education. Please be with us. Work out all technical difficulties that we can have a smooth transition in this educational experience. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. 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 Oh, we lost Tamsin. She'll come back. And when she comes back, yeah, when she comes back, look at Ebony. Ebony's like, help. I don't have the stay at home spiritual gift.
I hear you.
I hear you, Mom. I hear you. Listen, I don't have the experience. I am not a biological parent, but I just knew that all of y'all are tripping. So I said, we have got to inform our parents as best we can about the difference between homeschooling and virtual learning so that you can make an informed decision. Some of you have some decisions to make, and we're going to try our best to give you the experience. Tamsin is having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to ask the other parents to introduce themselves, and hopefully by that time, she's back on. If not, we're just going to keep rolling. All right, so we'll start with Joel.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? All righty. So my name is Jewel. I'm a mother of two girls, age 12 and 8, almost 9 years old. And we homeschooled for 6 years. And then we just did 1 year in private school at Fleece. We just completed last year. That was their first transition into traditional schooling. They enjoyed it. The year went well. And we are blessed to have the opportunity to homeschool again this fall since my husband and I work from home. So we just decided to make that decision for this school year. And we're grateful for that opportunity. And just glad to be here to offer encouragement and support and any insights that I may. Hi, Angela. Anything that I can do to help.
Great. And of course,
Hi, my name is Basti. I'm a mom of 2 boys, age almost 13, and recently one that just turned 15. And we have been homeschooling for just about 11 years. My kids have done a variety of things, co-op, hybrid schools. I had my oldest one who was at the academy for 1 year and then is transitioning back home to do his second year homeschooling. So we have seen it all. So I'm just glad here that we can have this opportunity to share our experiences and share what we've learned and hopefully help some parents take some of that edge off in the decisions that they're making. These are big times and difficult times right now that our parents are facing, and I can't imagine. But I'm glad to hear to be able to participate and to help.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Dr. Maya Byfield, and I am an educator. I've been teaching at the college level for how long has it been? Almost 15 years. And I have experience in the virtual arena. So I teach face-to-face mostly in my college classes, but I've taught hybrid online learning and full online learning. Of course, this is for adults, but I want to talk a little bit about that. We're focusing heavily on homeschooling today, and the next time we come, we're going to talk a little bit about experience in the virtual arena. I don't see Tamsin as yet, but we're going to move on, and when she joins us, we'll get her in there. Well, the first thing I want to talk about is a little bit about your choices. Okay. So basically you have 4 choices, 3 with the public school system. All right. The first choice is to leave the public school system. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And that is basically go home to homeschool. All right. So basically choose neither. That's the first choice. And then the second, in terms of Orange County, you have 3 choices. Number 1, you can decide to do face-to-face. You can decide to do face-to-face. Tamsin is back.
I am.
Yeah, no problem. You can decide to do face-to-face, or which really doesn't start till late August. So everybody's going to be online at first. But then you can decide to do face-to-face, or you can do Launch Ed. Launch Ed is the virtual platform for your given school for your children. So let's say you went to a certain school, high school, elementary school. Your children already have a computer. So I know this because I've tutored children in the public school system, and they have a computer, and it's called Angela welcomes you back.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you.
So they know the Launch Ed system. If they've already been working, they have Canvas. Their teachers have been using. Some teachers use it more often than others. And basically you will stay virtual with your given school. Then there is Florida Virtual. Florida Virtual is not a part of that Orange County school system. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that if you want to stay in your school, like the schools that you go to in your neighborhood, the schools where your students have relationships with teachers, the school that pays teachers, you got to consider that. Like if everybody leaves Launch Ed, which is the online virtual learning of the public school system, then many teachers will be out of work. Right? So choose wisely when you choose virtual. Know that Florida Virtual is not the same as Launch Ed Virtual. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But we're going to focus heavily on making sure that you understand that homeschool is not the same as virtual school. Virtual school is a system set up by either Florida Virtual or Launch Ed online learning, where they have given you the set curriculum, you're following teachers telling your students what to do. Homeschooling is a little different. And I want you to make sure that you're prepared to homeschool if you choose it. So I'm going to have Tamsin introduce herself, and we're going to really get into understanding like what is homeschooling.
Okay. Hi, my name is Tamsin Thomas, and I have been homeschooling for about 9 years. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old.
All right. Thank you so much, Tamsin. See, Angela did not know about teachers being out of work when you choose not. That's right. Think about it. When you, So I know some teachers, and they informed me about that. if everybody goes Florida virtual, people will lose their jobs, right? So that's so Florida virtual is not launch ed, all right. And also, your children will meet new. Your children are basically leaving the school, that they've probably known. So consider that. All right, all right. I'm glad we're learning something right off the bat. I knew we would. I mean, that's why we're here, right? That's why we're here.
Yes.
Feel free to share. Everybody, feel free to share this in your given groups, etc. So we're gonna give. I want to introduce homeschooling. Like, can you guys, based on your experience, tell me a little bit about the requirements of homeschooling? Well, before we get into the laws of it, just what homeschooling is and why is it different than virtual learning with a school system?
Do I start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Wow, that's a big question, because homeschooling in and of itself there's so many options, but homeschooling is just where the parent is the primary educator for the child or children in the home. And that can be done in a variety of ways. It can be done through book learning. It can be done through online classes. It can be done through, a hybrid school, or what they call umbrella. It can be done in co-ops, but it's just basically you as the parent are taking control of your child's education by choosing all the means and resources available to you, in whether it's through the state or through the various vendors and publishers that you have in the homeschooling world.
Okay. Anybody want to take a stab at it? Like, what's your experience with what homeschooling is and how you define it for yourself?
I think that the only thing I'd add to what Basti said is that it's not really an addition, but that it's child-led. So one of the benefits of homeschooling in comparison to virtual schooling is that you, the parent, you have complete control over the progress, over the pacing of the school year, over the modules that you learn. Where with virtual schooling, you're doing what the curriculum says at a certain time. You have to be on the computer for X amount of hours, or at X, at this particular hour of a day. Where homeschooling is literally you, the parent, you work with your child and you guys create your own schedule. So there's a lot more fluidity and flexibility with homeschooling. And I think that's a big difference because, even when I started homeschooling, I talked to different parents when they were transitioning. Some people wanted more structure, and then other people really wanted to be able to do, whatever they wanted to do in terms of creating their child's curriculum. So I think that's an important differentiator between a virtual learning with the state versus homeschooling, when you are creating it and you and your child are working through it together.
And to add to that, it's just as Jewel says and Vashti said, is that you're able to tailor your curriculum for your child. You're also able to have that one-on-one time with your child to where you're able to know what their learning styles are like. So you're able to use different curriculums to fit that learning style that will allow them to help them to learn a little bit better or understand that certain subject a little bit better.
I guess the question is, do you want to do that? So, like, did you want? I don't.
We all laughed.
So,
I never. Okay, so I never planned. It wasn't like, okay, when I have kids, this is exactly what I'm going to do. I mean, my husband and I, we wanted to have kids. So when we decided to have kids and the kids were getting to that age, I think I did what every parent did. I looked at the schools around me and I said, where can they go? And we started off with our oldest one going to VPK. He was ready and I figured this was a good time. Send him. I had another little one at home. My kids are 2.5 years apart. So I figured, why not? Number one, it was free. So, and we were going to a private school. So I sent him there. And by the end of the year, something was tugging at me. I it wasn't that he had a bad experience. It wasn't that, the teacher was great. He had a really good experience, but there was something inside of me that just kept saying, there are other options. Start looking at other things. I have family members who homeschooled, friends who had homeschooled, but I had never really engaged in any kind of conversation other than, oh, okay, you homeschool. Yeah, how do you do that? And yeah, so-and-so homeschools. I know they do. But by the time the school year wrapped around, it was pulling on me, and I was like, Lord, what are you telling me? I need to do what? And then I said, okay, fine, I'll do this. But in my mind, I literally was thinking, oh, it's kindergarten. I could do kindergarten. I mean, I went to school. I graduated. Why can't I teach my kid how to do kindergarten? So I thought, well, I'll just pull him out. My husband was even thrilled with it, because he said, well, the boys get to be together. I really like the family unit being together. And he was very supportive of that. And then, this is funny. I think I was at Ross. I think, Tamsin, I think I told you this the last time we talked. I was, I think, at Ross or Marshall's, and, I wasn't even looking for it, but I found a book that had a complete 36 weeks, 180 days planned out for the student, for your child, kindergarten level. It had everything in it. I flipped it over. It was $5.99. And I was like, my whole year is here. I'm taking this home. And that's how I did kindergarten. That's exact. I added books. I added other, hands-on things, like, activities and things like that, field trips. It was a great year. And the next year I thought, well, if this worked out, I'm going to get, the first grade book. 2 weeks in, and it was tears, both my kid and mine. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this right. And I just, 2 weeks in, I said, you know what, you get another week of vacation. And I took that 1 week and I just researched and read and looked up stuff, and, talked to other homeschooling parents, talked to other families who had been doing it for a while. I just dug in, and I said, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this right. And then I said, okay, so we'll probably do this till maybe third grade. He's going into 10th grade now. So
that's nice.
I personally feel that you must be serious about it. Like I believe that you have to really plan it. I've taught homeschoolers, meaning many students that get homeschooled in high school actually dually enroll in my classes. And I, as of yet, I've never had a bad homeschool student. They're always at the top levels of the class. So their parents must have seriously planned it out. But I know you have to plan it out. You can't just say, okay, I'm just going to homeschool. I'm not, Anybody else wanted to say something?
Well, we fell into homeschooling, I think, as a competition in a sense, because when Olivia was first born, I kept thinking about schooling and where will we put her? Will we do private education or a church school? And then I asked my husband, I said, what do you think about homeschooling? He was like, absolutely not. No way. And I think it's because he thought maybe I couldn't do it. So I had to prove to him that I could. So I started teaching her just secretly and just educating her. And then finally, around 2, she started reading. So he said, wait, don't let any other kids catch up to her. Can you keep going? And that's really how we fell into it. I just started doing research and started looking into curriculum, and we started homeschooling her.
Yeah, I mean, Ebony says, I think a different perspective, which I think will take some time adjusting to. Some of us are families that never planned on doing this. My husband and I were on the same page about long-term careers and had kids schooling charted out. Homeschooling had never crossed our minds. So it's a jarring reality, right? And so, yeah, like some people don't feel like they're homeschool material. That's they just didn't plan out. And that was my first question. Like, do you want to do it? And so, listen, like I said before, you have choices. But I'm telling you this, everybody's going to get homeschool a little bit. Meaning everybody's going to be home for a while, right now, whether they be really cookie cutter in terms of Florida virtual or launch ed, right, with the school system. You know, as an educator, there is a difference between my students who are face to face and online. They don't study as hard. There's a difference when people are on them, where educators are really pushing them. And so you parents are going to have to push your children. If you choose the online learning route where somebody else is giving them, standards, because what I've experienced in terms of tutoring young people, I asked them, did you do your homework? And they said, yeah. And then when I look at their computer on their launch ed, their teachers have everything listed out that you're missing this, you're missing that, you're missing that. And I asked the parents, did you know that they did not have any of this work in? And the answer a lot of the time is no, because parents don't focus in on their children's day-to-day work. And you're going to have to, and you should be doing this whether you're face-to-face or not. So if anything, that this is a blessing to teach parents that no matter whether you are homeschool material or not, you have to be engaged in your parents, your children's learning.
Right.
You have to
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's move on to, we're already 20 minutes in. Look how fast that went. Let's look. So what are the rules? So what are the laws of homeschooling? So some of you, for those in terms of virtual learning, you have to make a decision now. I'm not sure about the private schools dates as yet. I think they're still in the process of deciding what they're doing. I know you do have a choice between virtual or face-to-face, right? But you still have to make a decision. I believe this week. What's the date they changed it to?
For which one?
It is.
I believe it's this Friday. It was last Friday, and they gave an extension.
I think so.
So you have to decide whether you're going to do launch ed, whether you're going to do Florida virtual, whether you're going to do face-to-face or neither, homeschool. It's time to make a decision. But homeschools have rules. They have guidelines. So can you guys tell me a little bit about homeschool guidelines?
Florida's pretty easy. I think it's probably one of the easiest states to homeschooling in regards to setting it up. I mean, you have some options to homeschool in the state of Florida. One of the ways you can do it is by hiring a tutor. You can register with the county, and I'm blanking out on the other ones too. But
you can have an umbrella school.
Umbrella school, yep. You can join. If you join an umbrella school, however, you will be considered a private school student. And there are many umbrella schools, and depending on what their requirements are for that school, you will have more requirements than you would if you were doing it through the county. So it just depends what you want to do. Some people like the comfort of doing an umbrella school. An umbrella school gives you guidance. And if you're not sure about what you want to do, the umbrella school will provide testing. Some umbrella schools will say, give us your list of curriculum, turn in grades twice a year, and your attendance. There's other umbrella schools where you register with them, like what is it called, Florida Unschoolers, where you don't have to turn anything in. You don't have to do testing. You don't have to do anything. You're pretty much, but you're still considered to be a private school student. If you register with the county, that one is a little different. You can register at any point in time during the school year. You have 1 year from the date that you register that you turn in your letter of intent to homeschool to submit some kind of either standardized test scores or a portfolio review, or I think the other one was like a psychologist or something, some agreed upon testing that you can do. So it just depends. I mean, like for me right now, I have one that's registered with the county. I've done all of them except for the tutoring and the psychologist, but I've done umbrella schools. And then my youngest one, he's going to be doing just through the county. And he's been like that for the last, 4 or 5 years. My oldest one, because he's in high school, I am going to register him under an umbrella school. But I know of other families who have high schoolers and have done it straight through the county. You just have to make sure that you follow all the guidelines. And speaking of guidelines, the state of Florida has no requirement for homeschoolers as to how many days you teach, how many hours, what you teach your child. That is completely left up to the parent. Now, with having said that, you should keep your end goal in mind, meaning, what are your goals for your child at the end of that time period that you're going to be homeschooling? Are you going to put them back into another school? Are you going to, if you're in high school homeschooling, what are your colleges that you're looking at? What are they going to be requiring? So having said that, the state does not have any requirements on you as a homeschooler who is registered with the county. However, you should keep your end goal in mind when you're doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you have to know the difference between the homonyms, like two, and two, right? Like don't listen.
Yeah, it's that's where your parenting has to be intentional, and you obviously are doing this. That's like the downside of homeschooling in a state that's pretty lax about it, is that nobody's going to be over your shoulder unless they even in the portfolio evaluations. I mean, you don't have to show that your child is mastering, fourth grade math in fourth grade. You have to show progression. So if your child is moving along, he's, technically age-wise or whatever in fourth grade, but he's doing third grade math, as long as his third grade math is progressing, that's fine. That's perfectly acceptable.
Right.
The county has, which I would venture to say that they rarely do, will call you for a portfolio checkup on you after you've done your evaluation with whoever your evaluator is. But you basically are giving them sources from the beginning, the middle, and the end of the year, maybe some kind of a reading list, attendance, or a schedule, a copy of a schedule that you might have. But you're really not required to show a whole list of things. Florida is so, like I said, it's easy, but at the same time, if you're not a diligent parent or you're not, on top of it, it really, if you're not organized,
Yeah. So I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I have an accounting and finance background, so I need a spreadsheet with all the, the little checkbox. So to me, it's like, what? You don't keep track? I'm like, no, I need to.
Yeah, you gotta. So, what are your experience? Talk to me about evaluators, Tamsin. So that what are evaluators, and what's your experience in making sure you have everything, the guidelines in homeschooling?
So evaluators are is a person or a certified teacher that will, at the end of the year, once you have your portfolio together for that child, they will go over the portfolio to make sure that the child has improved, as Vashti said, that make sure the child has improved from last year. So it could be that last year they were doing 2 + 2 and now they can subtract, or now they can divide or multiply. So whatever the improvement is that they have done for the new school year, now they're, the evaluator evaluates that. So my experience has been, I do have an evaluator that evaluates the girls and just make sure that we're on track. We're also under an umbrella school, so I just try to make sure I have everything covered. But we do have an umbrella school that we're registered with, and I do have an evaluator that comes in and makes sure they're on track, or just to check the boxes, as Vasti said, to check the boxes. And also I do testing with them as well too.
What about your experience, Joel?
So we have always gone the umbrella school route from the very beginning. We started homeschooling because my daughter was 4 years old and she was reading quite proficiently, and I was working part-time, and it was just kind of one of these things, let's give it a try and see if it works. And then we actually relocated here to Florida from Maryland. So coming into Florida, I didn't know anything about setting up, finding evaluators, all that kind of stuff. So I was introduced to the umbrella school and that system, and that's what I've stuck with. And I like being able to, number one, have a private school. My daughter is considered a student of a school. So, and online reporting is easy. I just submit my curriculum, my grades, my attendance. And then I like that they did testing. The schools that I've been associated with did testing, just because I knew we never really had a plan to homeschool forever. So I always wanted my kids to be prepared to jump right into, a traditional classroom setting. And then I wanted them to develop testing skills. Even if they homeschool through high school, our kids just need to know how to take standardized tests if they're going to succeed in college. There's no way around that. So that's something that I just figured, okay, from the beginning, they're going to get used to testing. I wasn't, using these tests as a big barometer of what kind of, student my daughter is, because I know kids are different in the way that they test. And some kids excel at standardized testing and some don't. So I just used it as practice for them. And that's what I did from the beginning. So that's why I like the umbrella school model. And I just kind of stuck with that because I didn't really know to find educators. And it's probably not that hard at all because I know a lot of families who do it, but that's the way that worked for us.
So like the umbrella school, are you paying the umbrella school since it's private? What's the, somebody asks, is there an advantage to an umbrella school? What's the difference between,
I have not found any Adventist school unless,
Advantage.
Advantage. Oh, Advantage.
Advantage.
Yeah, sorry.
What was the question again?
Is there advantage to having an umbrella school?
I think for us, like I said, when we've signed up with umbrella schools before, usually it's because they had additional resources that I wanted to use that were just available for me. Like right now with the umbrella school that I signed up my oldest with, we were with them before. So I just kind of went back after we pulled them out of the academy. And I know that they provide testing. I know that they provide academic guidance to make sure. These are all things that I probably could go and look up and do because I know other families that have done it through the county. There's a lot of resources. I just don't want to spend that time. I have another, one going into 7th grade, so I don't want to have to deal with all of that. So the umbrella school it just sets it up for you so that you literally don't have to, you deal with
everything is there.
Everything is there for you. The one umbrella school that we were with when they were younger provided field trips. They would plan out, like 3 or 4 a month. That group was very, very active. They had on-campus events that my kids could participate in. So it was almost like like being part of a school, but not really. They didn't give us their curriculum, although they had the option to do that. At one point in time, the umbrella school offered, and they still do, but a 1-day enrichment program that my kids did. They also had a 2, 3-day, and 4-day enrichment. I think at 4-day they were considered full-time students there. But there's just, like I said, but each umbrella school varies. There are some that do not have that at all. They're just for you to register with and keep track of your attendance requirements. Now, earlier somebody asked about the 180 days.
Yeah, that's what I asked.
So if you're registered with the county, you're not bound by 180 days. You do not have any day requirements. You do not have any hours requirements. Those are only for school students, brick and mortar school students, whether it's private, hybrid, or an umbrella that is registered as a private school. You do not have to, as a homeschooling student through the county, report your 180 days. That is not a requirement.
All right, cool. Christina English, what's up, Christina?
Also,
see, we love you still, even though you're not in Orlando anymore. That's the beauty of social media, right? She's a working mom, and her oldest will be participating in virtual learning in the upcoming school year. What are some recommendations on how to be successful with virtual schooling while from home? So here's the key thing, and I know you guys can jump in terms of how to be engaged with your children. But my answer to you is find out the syllabus of your teacher. The teacher is going to, and I'm assuming this is the beauty of teachers. Shout out to teachers. Though they're pissed that they have to start school, the ones in Florida on Friday, because they just upped and said, oh, by the way, you're starting on the 10th. They're going to do it. And they're going to set up their plan. They're going to, especially, I know with me, put everything on Canvas. They're going to put all the things that are required. They're going to put due dates. The better this teacher, the more likely. You need to, every Monday, find out what is the teacher requiring. And you have to set your child up to do those assignments for that week. And it doesn't necessarily she doesn't have to necessarily be stuck at the computer all day. Just make sure she accomplishes the task that her teacher has given, right? Watch all the videos. Like I give videos, and this is adults that I'm having issues with. I give videos, I send messages, and 16 weeks later, I get, where can I find that Pearson activity that you talked about? Like, what are you asking me 16 weeks later? So if I'm dealing with people who are 20 and 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds, those are parents. So stop being as you are for yourself. Be different for your children.
Right.
Find out what the teacher requires. And a lot of the times it's not that much work for that given day. Make sure it's accomplished. Make sure that when the teacher grades, you go on that computer in Canvas and you see what's missing. Keep on top of them. They don't necessarily have to be in screen time all the time. Just accomplish the goals of that teacher each week. Anybody else have any ideas on how to, because it's not necessarily just for virtual learning. It's just how to engage the students constantly as they work independently. This is all about independent working without the teacher. You're now going to be Mrs. English. You're going to be Mrs. English now, Christina. Go ahead.
I would say that, it's something that you have to put the time in at the very beginning. I can see that now with my 15-year-old, he's become way more independent, but I didn't wait till he went to high school to do that. That was something that we kind of stressed for him over the years, a little bit at a time. And yeah, there were times where, I had to sit there. I had to literally be over his shoulder, making sure he was getting something done, but to build that in so that he understood how important this is, that he stay on top of things. And, when he was in his freshman year, it was a part-time program. So he did 3 classes on campus and 3 classes virtual. And, even then it was still, getting on him about making sure he logged on. And mind you, he didn't have to log in at a specific time for his virtual classes. So even then it was just a push to, make sure you get it done. And even saying things like, please don't let me get any text from your teacher saying you haven't logged in and you haven't done this, or, and there might've been a couple of weeks here and there where he lost phone privileges, and stuff like that. But it's, you just do, you have to be diligent about making sure that they're getting their work done. That's really,
I want to
that's my nephew.
just offer some encouragement.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking along the lines of organization is key, and I don't want to say, I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Don't expect too much of yourselves in the very beginning, because it's extremely difficult to work a full-time job, even if you're working from home, and be a home educator. Particularly if your children, I don't know what the age of her children, but it really depends. It can depend on the age of your child. If you have a child that's under 5th grade, they're going to require a lot more attention from you and a lot more guidance, even if they're the sharpest of students, So I think my heart just really goes out to the parents who are trying to do the virtual learning with their children and maintain a full-time job at home, because it is going to be challenging.
Right.
And I definitely think organization is key, not just for your children's material, and their schooling, but also for yourself, so as the parent and the educator, you're going to have to figure out your own work schedule in addition to, when your children, okay, she's going to kindergarten. So it'll be a lot easier for a kindergartner in some ways, because, kindergartners don't require as much time and lessons during the day, which means you're going to have a lot more, you're going to have a schedule for the day, because you're going to have to get work done. I don't know if you're going to have to be on the phone talking with clients. I don't know what your type of work is, but it's still going to be a lot, because you're still going to you're going to have to be the one who's entertaining and watching the child and all of that. So it's a lot more complex than most homeschool families, one of the parents is the primary teacher, and doesn't have to carry a load of working, or they're able to work out the schedule. But I think a lot of the families that are going into the fall right now are full gun. If they're able to be at home, they still have work responsibilities. And learning how to educate and nurture a child who's doing virtual learning is very challenging in and of itself. So it can be done. I hear a lot of frustration, and I have some anxiety going into this fall as well, because I'm, going to be working from home. You said you can't even stick to. Yeah, I really feel like this school year is going to be survival. It's just going to be survival. We're going to make it through. We're going to do our best every day. Because even for us as homeschoolers, one of the things I loved about homeschooling was the social aspect. My kids, like Vasti said, they got to do field trips. They got to go in and do, classes and interscholastic sports. But all of that is gone for homeschoolers, as well as, children who are used to their traditional settings. So it's a big adjustment for all of us.
Right.
So survival, focus on surviving, and stay organized with yourself personally and stay on top of what your kids are doing.
Yeah, so like Ebony says, a follow-up event would be like homeschool virtual for working parents. Like that's her concern. She's an essential worker. She has to go in. Like she's anxious about that. Like what does she do? And I will say, just roll with it. Be anxious for nothing. Like we're all going through it, right? I feel we're just gonna have to roll with it and do your best. That's all I can ask for. So, I'm not saying don't be anxious or don't have fear. Is natural, but don't let it overwhelm you to worry. Let the fear push you to do something. Like when I'm afraid of something, my natural push should be to run away. Or to fight the situation. Like you must make a decision. Don't just sit in fear and just be scared.
Yeah.
Let that fear push you to organize, push you to watch this type of video, and then just roll with it,
Yeah.
But I can imagine having to leave, right? You're gonna have to find childcare as well. I don't know. Everybody here I'm single, have no children, or these are parents that are working from home or who are purely at-home moms, correct?
Correct. And, also I have a couple friends that have hired teachers to come into their home and teach their children. So that's, I don't know if people have that option, but that's another option. I also have another friend who has decided to do a group with a couple kids in the neighborhood. So about 4 kids are getting together, and they're hiring a teacher to teach those 4 kids.
Yeah, like a pod, I think it's what they're calling them now.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to say one more thing kind of about one of the positive things about homeschooling is that it has given us an opportunity to grow as a family. And a lot of the times I have noticed in my own personal experience that if I'm not getting things done with my kids, if things aren't going the way that I need to, homeschooling has given me the time to kind of pull back a little bit and focus on that relationship, because a lot of these issues are really heart issues. They're not, most of the time, they're not academic things. It's not that you're, obviously outside of somebody having a real struggle, learning disability or something like that. But a lot of it is, these are heart issues, and these are struggles that a lot of families go through, whether it's related to schooling or not, in the home or not. And homeschooling gives you that opportunity to kind of pull back a little bit and deal with that one-on-one with your child. And who's better to do that than the parent?
Right.
So, give yourself some grace and know that this is an adjustment for them as well as it is for the parent. And there's even every year for me, I watching videos, I'm reading this, I'm reading that, just to kind of get over that, this year I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm tackling high school. What am I thinking? But it gives you an opportunity to form those relationships and form those bonds with your family, with your kids, to get to know them. And you will know when something is working, when you have found your routine. Not everybody can maintain a schedule, but like a time this, time that, and you do this at this hour. But once you find your routine, and those are built over time, those you're looking at building relationships. That's essentially, and it's what kind of helps me to know that I can move forward, because then I feel like I truly know my child.
All right, so let's look at there's a question. Let's look at how we organize. How do you organize? So how do you organize your homeschool? Or here's a question from Angela. What are some learning things you can do for your 2-year-old while your 3rd grader? Shout out to my special friend. I know he's watching, that special 2-year-old. That's anyway. The 3rd grade is going through his school lessons. So a lot of these parents have 2 children. Matter of fact, a lot of the parents here. Ebony has 2, Christina has 2, and one is in higher grades. How do you prevent distractions?
One of the things that I did, when Olivia was doing her schooling and Anna she was not yet in school, I would set up different stations for her. So throughout the house, I had different stations that she had to work and accomplish something to do. And when she was finished with that, she knew she needed to go to the next station. So that was just buying me time so that I can get through a lesson with Olivia and doing something with Olivia. So that's another idea that she could do.
I thought so. I thought so. When I said it, I said, "Wait a minute, it's 9:00. Ryan is sleeping." But he would be saying hi. That's right. I was just thinking that. That's a good point. My father is an early childhood educator, and he is an avid believer in stations, especially. And he used to work with students with learning disabilities and autism. And it was huge for them. They need to be able to, they do this, they accomplish that, they move over here, they accomplish that, they move over here. That's crucial for, I don't know how big your homes are, but if you can set up something where they accomplish a task at hand, keeping them busy. I like that idea. Anybody else have any ideas of, first of all, how do you organize a homeschool? Let's talk about that. Like, what's your experience organizing homeschool? That'll be our last question.
Wherever you can and however you can. It just depends. I've been fortunate that I've been able to have a room in my house. And we've, over the years that we've been homeschooling, we've been in 2 houses, and in both houses we've had a classroom. But I have to say, we've homeschooled, everywhere. In the living room, in the bedrooms, in the family room, at the kitchen table. My husband this year, he's like, if you don't use that classroom, I'm going to turn it into a game room. And I'm like, oh no, I'm fixing it. So, but there are other things that I have used. I've used little rolling carts with hanging files on them so that I'm able to move that from room to room. It's just, not everybody has to have a whole classroom set up. And all over Facebook, I'm seeing all these classrooms that are so pretty and all set up with, all these things on the walls and whatever. And all I'm thinking is, oh my goodness, at the end of the day, at the end of that week, that room is going to look
hot mess.
Yes. On my sick days, we are doing homeschool in bed. So if I'm sick and not feeling well, I tell the girls, come on, bring all of your schoolwork in the bed, and we're doing school in bed today.
Yep.
But how do you organize it in general? Like, how do you make do you choose curriculum? Like you were talking earlier that you had like a $5, like what are the different types of curriculum, and like how do you ensure that they have access to other children, because you don't want them to lose the social, like what ideas do you have with that?
So they have curriculums that are all-in-one curriculum. Like for example, for Anna, I use Abeka, and Abeka provides everything. So it has her English, her math, her Bible, her social studies, everything. And so I use that for her for this moment, because for for Olivia, I mix and match her curriculum. I've homeschooled her so long to where I know, okay, she needs a more hands-on math to understand it. So I need to use this math for her. and then I need to use a different English for her. So I've organized it in that sense for her and using different curriculums. And as far as the socialization, we're part of different co-ops. So we are part of Classical Conversations, and they have decided, our community has decided that they are going to meet up, for the school year. And we also do a nature co-op that meets at Me Gardens that we do as well. And we used to
What's
go to
a co-op? Can you explain what a co-op is?
A co-op is a group of students that come together for a certain purpose. So for instance, our nature co-op, we have about 8 students in there, and we learn everything about nature. And so last year, our curriculum, we learned about biomimicry. That was our curriculum for that co-op, and that was based all on nature. And so they have other co-ops that are geared towards certain things. It could just be a play co-op. It could be an academic co-op where students are coming together to either learn or play for the social aspect of it.
I think another important differentiator is that co-ops typically have the parents that are leading out. So to be involved, that's a big responsibility. So if you're going to be involved in a co-op, the group of parents are running it. So you have to contribute. So it's not a place where you're dropping off your child.
Dropping off.
No. The whole, it's a family, like a group of families who decide. So you have an assignment as a parent. So if you are a working parent, who doesn't have a lot of flexibility, a co-op would be very challenging for you, because if you're going to participate, you're going to have to choose, you're going to have to sign up once a week or once a month or whatever to be doing something within that group. So, but super beneficial. And that, like Tamsin said, there's so many different, based on your interests, you can find they're all over the area. Any interest you have, STEM, nature, Disney, whatever, you can find a co-op, in a group of families where you're learning, your kids are learning together.
Or you could even start your own now, because there's so many families that are
you get your friends together.
Get
your friends together. And like I said, guys, with virtual learning, a lot of that is computer based. Like online, when I teach online, it is all computer based. It is all paying attention to what the professor has given to that week. They don't really give, especially at the higher levels like high school and middle school, they're not going to give activities to do at home, right? So the learning experience is going to be a challenge virtually for your students. I'm just letting you know. Especially studies show that minorities, if they don't have stick-to-itiveness and they're literally staying on target, they get left behind. And I want to make sure that you guys have excellent computer access, right? They have, when I give tests, you can't use. Hopefully, they're giving you the laptops, these schools, but there's certain browsers that don't work with the lockdown browser. For instance, when we give tests totally online, and they send cameras to watch the child take the test, and they lock down the ability to surf. So you have to actually create a plan as to where your child will test, having the appropriate computer, right? Have the appropriate internet access. If you're going to go virtual learning, your internet access needs to work well, right? You don't want the system to shut down while your child is in the middle of a test. So you want to consider what it takes to virtually learn. And it's going to be, a bottleneck. Like, it's going to take a little bit of time. But what I will say is that your child, if anybody's prepared for virtual learning, it is the Generation Z, right? They have been using computers. Christina, that child has been touching up computers, the iPad, since she's been one, right? I don't want you to worry about it, but I don't want you to focus too much on screen time. Like, it's okay for them to fight. I mean, I guess, I don't know. It might be annoying and stuff, But that's what you're going to experience in this process. And as I said before, we gotta roll with it.
It's the growing pains.
Spawns. Let me say spawns. Roll.
Have mercy.
Right. This is going to be an awesome experience. All right. Anything else you wanted to say about the organization? The process of organizing?
I would just say, talk to people, talk to other homeschoolers, ask what's working for them, because what works for one person may not work for the other. And there's just so many different ways of doing it. As Tamsin was talking about the different options for curriculum, I mean, it all depends how your child learns. It all depends on what your style of teaching is. If you don't like all in one box curriculum, there are certainly other options that you can look into and piecemeal it, and you'll still be okay. It's just the intentionality of the parent. Thankfully, there are so many more other resources now, not even just in the book options or joining a co-op or things like that, but even in the virtual world. I mean, there's classes that your kids can take online. Some are free. I know I saw a bunch of them this summer that are carrying over into the fall, because they know a lot of parents are still going to be at home. There's places like outschool.com that have tons of fun classes that are just being taught in a bunch of different ways, that have the flexibility of signing up for 1 day, 1 week, a whole month, a whole semester, and fun things. Like my kids have done YouTube classes on there, how to set up your YouTube accounts, how to one did a stop motion picture with Legos, another one did a writing class. There was my older one who, he probably wouldn't mind me sharing this, but he's a teenage boy, and so I had him do a hygiene class on there. So there's just all kinds of things that you have access to, and it can be a bit of a rabbit hole at times, but there's definitely something for everyone out there.
And also, just to add, go ahead, I'm sorry. I was going to say also, just to add to that, I know a lot of people have asked me, and they have been stressing as far as the time. And I just wanted to say, with homeschooling, it's not the same as if you're in school from, you're in school from 7:30, 8 o'clock to 3:30. So with homeschooling, it's so much different, because our schedule is we will start homeschooling at 9, and by 1 o'clock, we're usually finished for the day, and that's completing all of our subjects. So it's a little bit different in that, and don't stress, because I had a friend that once said, well, we're homeschooling and we're not finished until 5 o'clock. And I said, well, what are you doing? Are you, when are you stopping your day or stopping your subject? And she said, well, we continue until my child gets it. And that's not the way to do it, because they're just going to get so frustrated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that could be done in the concept of virtual as well. Guys,
yes.
A lot of the things that we do in the schools setting is fluff. We fill up the time. Okay. Especially like, for instance, in laboratory, a lot of it is waiting. A lot of time is waiting. But if whatever you're
helping other students
or helping other students. So cover what needs to be covered. Make sure stay on top of them all the way to high school. So you parents who a lot of the people who are watching have young children. I never get parents with teenagers. And what happens with teenagers? They fall by the wayside, because they just assume that teenagers are doing it. And if they're not, then it's on them. No, stay on top of your children from pre-K to the 12th grade. What is required for that day? And a lot of times it's not that much stuff. And as long as they get that stuff done, you don't have to keep them busy in work. So you have to organize in other things that are educational. So I hope this was educational for you guys. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you guys so much for watching and taking advantage of this awesome opportunity.
You're
I wish
welcome.
you guys well. I'm gonna definitely pray for you guys. We're gonna try to do this more often, right? We said we're gonna think of other things that that we can do. So if you have any questions, please feel free to go on to Patmos Education. So we have a Patmos Chapel Education group. Join our Patmos Education group. And definitely, I want you to go to patmoschapel.org and I want you to fill out the student information form. Student information form. This is specifically for the parents that go to Patmos. I need to know, what are your plans? Are you deciding to send your kids back to Fleece? Are you deciding to send your kids back to OJA? Are you sending them to virtual school? Are you sending them to public school online learning? I want to know every single child in Patmos Chapel, Seventh-day Adventist Church. I need to know what you guys are going to do. So please do me a favor. Fill out the student information form ASAP. ASAP. Hey, Josie. I'm glad that it was very helpful for you guys. If you have any further questions, please join the Patmos Chapel Education group. It's just called Patmos Education. And ask questions there. And of course, we will try to do this again. Are you included, Christina? You still a member? You still a member, homegirl? Sure. Sure. All right, let's bow our heads in prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for fixing all the technological difficulties. And we were able to really get the information out there. Please help the parents, not only of Patmos Chapel, but everywhere right now. I'm sure they're fretting. I'm sure they're trying to make decisions as to what they're doing for their children. So help them make a decision and help them to educate their children. Give their children a sense of awareness of the situation, a sense of peace, a sense of obedience and calmness. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. I prayed for your children, Ebenezer Spawns. Those are precious babies. All right, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.